Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on language hybridization in Pakistan. I hope and expect by the end of this session, you would have an idea of what is language hybridization and how the processes of language hybridization are taking place in Pakistani context. Well, my dear students, it would be a good idea to define the term hybridization at the outset. I hope all of you know what is a hybrid. In the general sense of the hybrid, a hybrid is, a kind of, mix of the two, where two entities, two objects, they are mixed up, they are combined, we call it a hybrid. So, as the word hybrid itself refers to the fusion of two objects or two entities, in the same way when we use the term hybrid in the context of language hybridity or language hybridization, in fact, it refers to the phenomenon of a fusion of two languages. Well, I hope you know what is code mixing and what is code switching. That is respectively, mixing the items of, that is words or phrases of one language into the other. That is called mixing, and, switching from one language to the other, for example, from English to the other, at the boundary of a sentence. That is called switching. Now the question arises then, how does this hybridization differ from code mixing and from code switching? Well, as I have already defined, that hybridization is the fusion. It is the mixture of the two. But the nature of this mixture is of what kind? That is a significant point. When two codes mix in such a way, they are mixed in such a way that they constitute a third code that has structural characteristics specific to that new code. It is called hybridization. Let me simplify that. If there is language A and if there is language B, and the users of language A and the language B, the people who use both of these languages, they know language A and they know language B, and they use both of these languages. They mix them frequently through mixing and switching processes, to the extent that a third code out of this A and B is generated. A third language variety emerges. That third variety is a hybridized code or a hybridized language. And what is the difference? It has its own structure. So in this case, the structure of language C would be different from language A and from language B. Another important aspect of, this process of language hybridization is, or this phenomenon is, that when we compare it with code mixing, what we can say is mixing is a process and hybridization is a product. So, as a result of these processes of mixing, the product as a language that is created, we may call it a hybridized code or a hybridized variety of that language. Well, moving on, I would quote Bakhtin, 1981. According to Bakhtin, hybridization is an utterance that in terms of grammar and composition belongs to a single speaker, but actually has two utterances containing two speech manners, two styles, two languages with two different systems. So, language, there is a speaker. Let's suppose there is this speaker X. This speaker X uses language A and this speaker X uses language B. But this speaker mixes language A and B so much and so frequently that, for him or for her, A and B and the distinction of being separate languages, it is over. And, a kind of a mix is created for him or for her. Now this third, this C lect or this C code becomes one language. And when he or she is using that language, that mixed language, to him, consciously or unconsciously, this would be one language. So this is what Bakhtin means by this, where there is one speaker, but two languages with two, though the grammar that this speaker is using is one, but there are two, different speech manners of two languages, two different styles, and two different systems of languages that operate within that third language, that is the hybridized variety. I would also like to refer to Sredar 1978, Kachro 1978, and Romain 1995. By the way, these are the people who have contributed a lot towards the processes of language, hybridity. They have contributed a lot in terms of research on bilingualism, multilingualism, and thus, looking into the processes of code switching, mixing, and the phenomenon of hybridization. According to all of them, hybridization is used in a variety of ways, such as to refer to mixing at a very low level, that is within the word, phrase, or sentence level, and then it is referred to point out that particular variety as well. So, for example, when I have quoted these people, and when I have said that it is used at different levels, at the lowest level, at the minimal level, at the simplistic level, what is hybridization? I hope you are familiar with the example that you look at the screen. आज मैंने बड़ा टेस्टी कोफ्ता करी बनाया है. Now, tasty and curry, these are the items that are taken from English and they are mixed into this. Now, the process of mixing has taken place, and what is the result of this process? A hybridized noun phrase is inserted. Tasty, bada tasty kofta curry. This is the noun phrase, bada tasty kofta curry, out of which two words, bada and kofta, is taken from Urdu. Tasty and curry are taken from English. So, we may call that this is an example of noun phrase hybridization. So, this is the lowest level. But, apart from these smaller utterances, as I said earlier, when out of language A and B, a totally new language emerges, which contains the characteristics of the two. In totality, that language is also called a hybridized variety. So, language hybridization mainly is a resultant phenomenon of the frequent processes of code mixing. When two or more languages are frequently mixed in a sociolinguistic context, it gives birth to a hybridized variety. This new variety, in some ways, to some extent, shares the qualities of both the languages. But it has its own independent grammar. Now, this is an important point. It has its own independent grammar. It also has its own vocabulary that may not match with these two languages that are mixed. Backus has pointed out the frequent use of intra-sentential code switching refers to a bilingual lect. He has called it a bilingual lect, or what, may be called an alloy. So, these are different terms that are used for the same process. The speakers overall use a single mixed lect where the users probably do not think that they are switching between two languages very frequently. They think of them as a single language. Language hybridization can lead to the process of language desertion. Now, this is food for thought for you. You need to think how. Just to give you, some understanding of that, I would say, when this third language that language C is created out of A and B, and the speaker starts using C, there are chances that out of A and B, the one that has contributed less towards C, or that is weaker between A and B, would be gradually left, and finally, it would be deserted.